Okay. I'm because I've been recording several episodes in a row here, and anybody who's paying attention to the sound of my voice may realize that it seems like I probably had a cold for about a month and a half of episodes, which is really just like a couple of weeks, but it just does not want to go away. And like the thing, this is my third round of just constantly blowing my nose of the whole thing. It just and I never get colds. It's probably been a good decade since I've had a cold, and this one just will not entirely go away.
I heard this year that allergies are like next level for everybody.
Yeah.
And I haven't got them since I was a kid, and this is the first time where I've been like bedridden, just like stuffed up and just like feeling disgusting.
Well, I typically couldn't tell you the difference between like a cold and allergies, but like I gotten to the point where this was definitely a cold. It's like I had a sore throat, and I had it's just like coughing, and not that you can't get coughing from allergies, because you sure can, and people who particularly have asthma, you know.
Do you have asthma?
No, I don't. There was a time in which I thought that I did,
like
and
sports induced or whatever.
I had some kind of reactive airway syndrome.
Oh shit.
And that I had no idea exactly where it came from, except I had like gastric reflux at the time, and like my sleep apnea was just getting diagnosed or whatever. So I think my airway was just like super irritated.
Was this back in powerlifting back in the day with gear and everything? So you were pretty heavy, suits and all that.
Yeah, there was that. And I had another instance where my son and I pulled down a shed in the backyard, and I just like flooded myself with a like dry mildew. Ooh. And I like got sensitized to it. So that's kind of like I always had year-round allergies, but now I like really have year-round allergies. I had allergy shots and the whole 9 yards. It's like it got better. I can live with it, but it's not fun.
Yeah, it just sounded a little funky for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm here today with Riley Corbett, our head trainer here at Third Street Barbell. Riley's been around us for a long time.
Probably like over 10 years or something?
Probably over 10 years, yeah.
That'd be close, yeah.
Yeah, you were in Mike's class, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Mike and Marcus.
Here or in West Sac?
West Sac. Yeah, the second one after this one.
Okay, yeah.
So I was over there, and started training with everyone, and then eventually just started coming in more and more, and started lifting. And
I have to say that you look dramatically different now than you did back then, even 5 years ago.
Yes.
If I get really ambitious, I'll throw a picture up, but I probably won't. Because you were in a couple of photo shoots when we started the apparel line, when like even before the gym opened, and like you were pretty chunky at the time.
Definitely pushing the bulk back then. I was getting into the strongman stuff. I pushed my weight pretty hard, so I was in the 250s.
Wow.
I'm only 5'8", so I was pretty chunky, but yeah, definitely lost a lot.
You're only 5'8". You always look taller to me.
Appreciate it. I'll take that when I can get it.
How tall are you, Sebastian?
5'11".
Okay, yeah. See, I believe that, but in my mind, I don't think about you being dramatically different heights, the two of you.
We'll take it. 5'11", then. We'll take it.
Yeah. I would take it. You know, I used to be like over 5'8", you know, like 5'8.5" whatever, and now I'm 5'7" because I'm old, number one, and just like the squatting.
Oh, yeah.
It just like compresses your discs.
All those discs, yeah, no space.
No whatsoever. So was where you are now, you're actively competing in bodybuilding now. Mm-hmm. Was this always the goal, or?
So yes and no. The whole reason I got into working out in general was, to look like a bodybuilder. And, everyone wants to be more jacked and all that stuff. So that was my initial focus. I was training just, a lot of hypertrophy, 6 days a week in the gym. Still kind of eating whatever I want because I was, 18 to 20 something. Mm-hmm. So I could get away with that kind of stuff, and I wasn't putting on that same weight. But the older I got, and then I started switching into more kind of, after those first couple years, those newbie gains die out. That bodybuilding training's a little less fun. So I kind of had to switch my focus into some strength training to kind of keep my progressions going. Mm-hmm. Kind of liked it, but then at that point it was like, okay, do we stay the same size, or are we going to try to push those lifts a little harder? And that's where the weight gain came from.
Yeah, okay.
Just constantly chasing those next numbers up, and then, just kept going. So I just kept rolling with it.
Yeah, and that was at the time too. That was actually that was still pretty common.
It was, yeah. The whole the main gaining and all that wasn't a thing back then. It was bulk, get as big as you could, get huge, and live your life.
Yeah. I mean, Dave Tate was talking about people, eating sleeves of Oreos and
Yep.
butter and just like all sorts of things in order to put on weight.
Yep. My post workout 4 times a week when we were training out there, I'd go, because we had that In-N-Out right around the corner.
Oh yeah.
So I'd go right into the parking lot, get my 2 4x4s, animal fries, eat that in the car, and then I had about a 30-minute drive home, and then I have my beef and my rice and all that stuff after. So it was a constant just eating 24/7, whatever I could get my hands on.
Yeah, like any idea how many calories that was versus how many you're consuming now?
I always estimated it at around like 4,000 to 5,000, but now that I've been more focused on this bodybuilding stuff, last year I pushed my off season to about almost like 5,000 calories, and the amount of food I was eating was definitely twice as much as I was eating before. So it sounded like it was a lot, but I don't know if I was just eating so much, fatty foods and stuff, that I was getting a ton of calories, but it sounded like a lot more at the time.
Yeah. It was maybe it's the composition of those calories
For sure.
that was the issue.
For sure.
So when did you make this switch?
So right at the beginning of COVID, I got a colon infection.
Oh,
so
wow.
the colon infection came on like out of nowhere, and just one day I woke up, felt a little sick, decided I would go to the gym anyways, did some squats. I think that day we were repping like 465 or something, and made it through the whole set fine. The end of the workout, I was just not feeling good. So that night I went to the hospital, and I couldn't pee or go number 2, so they thought I had an inflamed prostate. So they put me on some antibiotics, had me go home, said if it didn't get better in like 2 days, come back. 2 days later, still was just getting worse and worse.
Oof.
But at that point, I'm a stubborn dude. I was, mid-20s, I'm not going to the hospital twice in 3 days or whatever.
Right.
So I kept saying, I'm good, just waiting. And, that fever just kept creeping up. And then got to the point where I was, over 104. And the girlfriend I was living with at the time, she was like, we're going to call an ambulance if you don't get your ass to the hospital. So she called my mom. My mom's calling me, freaking out. And so ended up going to the hospital again. And by the time I got there that time, I was in bad shape, already going septic. So it was
my God.
Shit got really serious. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Absolutely. Swear away. Fuck
Started
yeah.
getting really serious really fast. And then everything just kind of came out of nowhere. So I had to have emergency surgery. And then after that, it was like no lifting for a while. So at that point, there was no real reason to try to keep being big if I wasn't going to be lifting heavy.
Yeah.
So that kind of started the process where I was kind of controlling my food a little bit more. And then I started getting back into the swing of things. Started pushing it a little more. And then I tore my lat in here, deadlifting like 585. And then, after that, I was like, let's take a break. Reassess what we're doing, because I can't keep taking time off work for injuries.
Right.
Like it's not a realistic thing. So I had to kind of change focuses a little bit. Just started kind of cutting down, and once the fat started coming off, I realized I had a decent amount of muscle underneath. So it was like, all right, let's see what we can do now. So that's kind of how the whole bodybuilding thing got started.
That's interesting, because you don't even like physically don't even look like the same person at all. Like I can't even
Yeah, I think now I walk around at, right now I'm a little leaner because I'm cutting down before I push up again. So I'm about 190 right now. So that's, 60 pounds difference is pretty noticeable.
Pretty significant. Yeah, for sure. Who did you look to for information when you made that shift?
You know what? Honestly, a lot of it was just, stuff on the internet. I've been, in the game for a long time. So throughout the years, I have manipulated my weight, competing. And, I think I've done 181s, 198s, 220s, and 245. So throughout that time, I've kind of had a pretty good understanding of nutrition and how to kind of change my weight to where I needed it to. So from that point, it was just kind of like researching a couple of nuanced things of how I can really dial that in for my performance. Because, you know, once you get into the whole restricting calories, it's all pretty straightforward from there.
Yeah.
So once I kind of had that dialed, it was like, how do I really kind of step it up another level, make sure I'm getting the nutrition I need to really kind of fuel my training and kind of make that, you know, next level change.
What is it? What is your current program look like versus what you used to do?
So like back in the like powerlifting and strongman stuff, I would usually only train about 4 days a week. And those were obviously going to be super long sessions just because you have so much to do, you know, if you're squatting, benching, and you're, you know, doing your log press, sandbags, all that stuff. So you're training for 2 or 3 hours a session. So you're definitely getting in a lot of work, but it's not the same. So my initial focus was trying to get into the gym more and just try to, you know, not do as long as workouts, but just kind of a little stimulate and kind of get out at first. And then once I kind of adapted to that, I kind of started adding more and more volume. And then it kind of became a thing where how can I get in like the most amount of volume I need per each body part while still being able to recover? That was my biggest problem when I kind of first started this whole stuff. I'd, you know, try the bro splits or like a push-pull legs, but, you know, it's, if I'm doing too many sets throughout the week, I notice, you know, when I come in 3 days later, I'm still not able to kind of move the weight that I really needed to. So kind of finding that balance for how much volume I can actually handle throughout the week and still feel good for my next training session, that was kind of the biggest determining factor. So now I train about 5 to 6 days a week, but my workouts are a little bit more condensed. I'm kind of just getting after it the whole time, shorter rest breaks. Yeah, just kind of more, you know, basic stuff. Kind of more what you just see like bro, kind of, you know, bodybuilding stuff. Pretty straightforward for the most part.
What are your favorite lifts?
Oh, these days?
Yeah.
These days, I kind of just go with whatever feels really good. So it changes from, you know, month to month. I think right now I'm really into like, you know, like certain flat machine presses that are converging. And, yeah, you know, certain pendulum squat machines feel really good. But, you know, I'm more about just whatever I can kind of feel the best and comfortably move weight. That's kind of ends up being my favorite things now on. Not about, you know, what I move the most weight in and what looks the coolest.
How individual do you think it is? I mean, do you think that you can, like, not that back in the day when workouts were published in bodybuilding magazines, not that you could rely on that being the thing that the person actually did, but how possible it is just to take an off-the-shelf program and get where you're trying to go, or is that just like step one toward figuring out what you actually need to do? So
I'm like personally under the belief where like I think whatever you can kind of push yourself towards, like, you know, you are your own kind of limiting factor with this kind of stuff. Because I mean the biggest thing is how hard are you going to push it? Because you can give, you know, 10 people the same program and they're all going to get, you know, pretty, you know, different results. But at the end of the day, you're going to notice that there's going to be, you know, 3 or 4 people in there that are probably pushing at a different level than everyone else. And I think that's going to be the biggest determining factor is how hard you're actually trying in those. I think a lot of those programs that you can just find off the internet, probably for 80% of the population, they're going to work great. But the real kind of thing is like how hard are you actually trying in those workouts?
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to go through the motions, but are we lifting with intent? Are we actually trying to get better every session? Those kind of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who are you working with at this point? Like, what kinds of clients are you working with?
Right now, I have a pretty giant mix of kind of a little bit of everything. I got, you know, clients in their 80s, and I have clients all the way as low as, you know, 11 years old. So
wow,
got a pretty big range, kind of working with anybody. So whatever people have problems with, we can usually get them sorted. But
what obviously a parent's going to be involved with an 11-year-old. What's the goal there? Is it a sports thing, or is it just a get in better shape thing, or?
Well, now what like a lot of it is now, it's a lot of these kids just aren't playing sports. So now that they're not in sports, you know, they're just playing a lot of video games and they're not getting outside. So a lot of parents now are just taking the initiation to be like, hey, we're going to put you in personal training, get you at least moving a couple times a week just to get you on that path. I think people are starting to really realize now that there is a lot of importance, you know, staying moving and actually getting that exercise in. So if you're not going to be playing sports, we got to do something.
It's funny how the pendulum swings, you know, because there for a while it's like, well, I mean, we all know that schools cutting out like PE and sports and stuff was a bad idea. And at the same time, we have this huge rise in the diagnosis of ADHD. And it's like, well, you're not giving kids anything to do.
Yeah, they got to run around.
That's, I mean, right? You've got to burn off the energy somehow. And yes, it's great to see that a parent would recognize that, hey, you need to get up off the couch. It seems like such a cliche, but it's like true.
Yeah.
It's sadly true. And actually, you know, use your body, create some physical effort beyond what you're doing with your thumbs, and you know. And
it's it teaches them that, you know, they're capable of more than they think. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a big deal because it is easy to. It seems like there are sort of two mindsets, and not just kids, but like people. Period. Either people think that they can't do X, or the other people who think that if they just did X, they might be really good at it, and they might be, you know, like, and there's a ego weird thing there. But they might not ever actually do it, but they think that would be good if they did. And yeah,
that's definitely a thing too.
Yeah, that's the thing that we all deal with it. And then you're working primarily with clients on in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do some online, but for the most part, most of my clients are in person right now.
Yeah, you've been giving me stuff to do.
Yep.
And it's been getting me back into it, but I had this conversation with somebody the other day about whoever they were working with. And like, yeah, when you get this, after a while, after a few weeks, you start thinking, well, not that I know more, but I want to do this differently than it's being done.
Yeah.
And not, you know, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just like, well, I'm used to maybe heavier weights, and I can't do those heavier weights for a set of 10. I can do them for 5, but I can't do it for 10. And it starts to morph, and I guess that's sort of a natural process too.
Yeah, everything's going to always change, you know. Your training's not always going to be the same throughout your entire life. You're going to have different flows of things.
Yeah.
You know? Injuries are going to come, life events are going to happen. You're going to have to switch things up, and the more you can adapt to those things, the overall better off you're going to be.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
And, you know, a lot of that too is, you know, if you can just stick to those kind of basic things, a lot of people get into that, you know, habit where they do want to change those things that their coach gives them. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, if you're constantly changing everything so often, there's no way for us to track progress.
Right.
So like we do need to stick to those things for a long time, and people don't like that. And I know it's kind of boring at first, but it's that kind of discipline of doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's where we really get better. Yeah.
For me, like, I know I'm going to be out for 2.5 weeks or so, and I have no idea about whether I'm going to actually, how often I'm actually going to get to a gym. And historically, like, I haven't really worried about it too much. But because I've been kind of back on a roll lately, like, you don't want to
keep that momentum
going. Yeah, you want to keep the momentum going. Yep. It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my gains, but in a way, it kind of is. You know.
Yeah.
You don't want to like fall into that cliche, but at the same time, like, it's a habit, and you have to like
have to keep the habit.
You have to keep the habit. You have to keep it in the groove, and that makes it you know, disconcerting when you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so we'll see what my mental state is like during this trip and what I managed to accomplish, and just time too. Like, this is I'm traveling and I'm gonna feel like shit for the first couple of days.
Yeah,
because
but I mean, you're gonna be moving, so it's not like you're doing nothing out
there,
so,
exactly,
you know.
Exactly. It's just that's not what I'm used to. Just totally out of the routine.
Yeah.
How were you? What do you feel about step counts during a day? How do you, with clients? What do you tell folks?
Yeah, I'm huge on steps. So you know, getting in those at least, you know, 10,000 steps a day, we can burn a ton of calories that way. So even throughout most of my cutting, I mean, I'm down, I think, 25 pounds or so down on this cut right now. And I haven't done a single day of cardio. So I get my 10,000, or some days I'll maybe do 12 if I need to burn a little extra, depending on how my weight loss is going. But yeah, I keep it around 10 or 12,000, and I usually know with that amount of walking, I'm probably burning around 400 to 500 calories a day just from my active movement. So at that point, you know, that's, you know, already what I'm going to get more out of that than I am 30 minutes on the bike. So
yeah,
it's a lot easier to do that way if I just take a couple, you know, 10, 20-minute walks throughout the day after my meals and just keep it easy that way.
I have to say that I have like lost any fascination I ever had with walking on a treadmill. I will do it, but it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a slog. Whereas like walking outdoors is not a slog.
No, it's way easier. Way easier. You get to, you know, change the environment, see a little bit.
Visual stimulation is better. The temperature isn't always better, but sometimes.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, that's why I during the summer months I got my walking pad, so I just kind of throw it in the corner of the living room. I pull it out right in front of my TV and just do like 10 to 20 minutes while I'm watching TV, then park my ass back on the couch. You know, at least get a little bit of movement if I'm going to be just kind of hanging out all day. So when it's 100 degrees, I still try to get it in.
Yeah. So you were working in construction before, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you shifted to training. Like, how did that happen? What was the
Yeah, so I got into doing construction right out of high school, and then when I was in my early 20s, me and my younger brother, we started our own construction company with our dad. And so we did that for years, but during the whole time of the colon infection and everything, I wasn't allowed to lift like more than 50 pounds for like 6 months or something like that. Wow. So construction was 100% just out of the question at that point. So I kind of had to pivot and figure out what I was going to do to, you know, get money in my pocket. So I I was managing a couple pubs and stuff for a little bit, but that just, you know, wasn't the move. Didn't enjoy it at all. So
I could see how it would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, pain in the ass, dealing with drunk people, and, you know, upper management was terrible. So it's like, get out of that, try to go back to working for myself. And then it was like, all right, I already knew that training something that I'm passionate about. I love bodybuilding. I love powerlifting. I love helping people. So it was kind of just like a natural progression that, like, if this is what we know we like doing, let's see if we can try to make money doing that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of how that kind of went about.
Yeah. Did you do certs or did you?
Yeah. So years ago, probably mid-20s or so, I went through the whole NASM certification to do all that, and I was going to start training, but I just never wanted to kind of pull the gun and just actually start doing it. It was kind of always one of those things with one day I'm going to do it, one day I'm going to do it. And so it finally was just like, all right, it's the time, we got to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But other than that, it was just, you know, my basic certification, and then I'm constantly trying to soak up whatever information I can get. So, you know, constantly listen to more podcasts, you know, reading studies, you know, trying to figure out what's the new information out, what's working, what do we know that's not working anymore, you know, all that kind of stuff.
So you're obviously like everybody who's getting started in bodybuilding, you have like a goal in mind, and most of the time the goal is a pro card, right? What do you feel like the mental prep is around that for you?
So for me, I try not to, I mean, obviously that is the end goal. You know, I'd like to, you know, get that pro card and establish, you know, if I could actually step on stage as a pro and see how I hang with some of the best guys out there. And, you know, that'd be awesome. But I try not to put too much pressure on that kind of stuff. Take it day to day, show by show. So my first goal was just to step on stage. And, you know, a lot of people have that goal of just stepping on stage, but I wanted more than that. I wanted to not just step on there and just do it. I wanted to, you know, look like I belonged up there. I wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I didn't just want to show up and get my participation trophy. I wanted to go in there and, you know, show that I belonged. So that was my first goal, is I tried to just go in there and just bring my best look that I possibly could. And then after that, you know, it kind of showed me that I do kind of have the structure. You know, I brought in, you know, super lean physique. So, you know, I think I could probably do it. So now it's just going to be keep trying to level that up and just see what we can do.
I feel like you know, in powerlifting all the time, we see people who are just getting started or whatever, who are reluctant to commit to being in a meet because it's like, well, I want to wait till my lifts get better or whatever. And in powerlifting, that is totally not the right choice.
Yes. Completely opposite.
But in bodybuilding, it is the right choice.
Yes.
I think you're making a good point. It's like you want to go out and look halfway legit at least, right?
Yeah,
you want people to be able to nod and say, "Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand why you're pursuing this." Did you go to bodybuilding shows before you started being in them?
Actually, no. So never been to one before, and it was quite a culture shock. Coming from only being in powerlifting meets before, where it's just, you know, chunky tatted dudes eating candy all day, smelling like Bengay and stuff. Then you go to a bodybuilding show and it's just completely different. You know, everyone's pretty closed off. You know, no one's really talking to each other. It was quite a different, vibe on everything.
Yeah.
It was, I had a good time, and it was definitely an experience for sure. But I always tell everyone the people you meet at like powerlifting and strongman events, they're gonna be like the most genuine, coolest people ever. Sometimes you'll get some cool people in bodybuilding too, but I think it's a little bit different of a crowd. But it's a little different, but yeah, it's definitely a different between the two for sure.
That's interesting that kind of level of camaraderie doesn't really happen as much. But part of it is just like people are maybe more in their head.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot more of a mental aspect to bodybuilding, just because, especially in that last little bit, you're starving, you're miserable, you don't want to be there, you want to get food. So I see the reason behind it for sure, but it is a totally different vibe. When everyone's at a powerlifting meet, everyone's pretty, happy-go-lucky, kind of relaxing, but it's different at a bodybuilding show.
How do you tolerate the tanning part of it? It would just drive me nuts. Like, I don't like anything on my skin in the first place. But
that's the worst part of all of it. You got to go in a room with like 10 to 20 other dudes. You're just sitting there naked, and they got to get all up everywhere, spray you head to toe, and then you got to dry off there all sticky, and got to go back to your hotel or your house. You can't shower for that night, so you're going to be all stinky, and then it's real gross when you go the next day and then you're posing on stage just sweating into that stink, and it's gross. It's terrible.
I hadn't really thought about that. That totally makes sense.
Yep, because once you get that tan on, you can't shower, you can't put anything on your skin, so no deodorant, no nothing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, everyone's stinking real right back there. It's gross.
Would imagine so. Good Lord. It must be like going to the county fair.
Yeah, exactly. Going to the 4-H area.
Yeah. Everybody smells like sheep and goats, cows, horses. That's crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of, we talked about a broad range of clients. Like, what are your favorite kinds of clients to work with?
So for me, my favorite type of client is anyone that comes in and just gives 100%.
Yeah.
If you come in, you give 100%, no matter where your fitness level's at, I can tell if you're giving me 100%. It's pretty easy to tell if I can see that you're really struggling, or if you're not breaking a sweat at all, and you're talking the whole time. We can tell. So if someone's in here and they're coming in every session and they're giving me everything they have, those are my favorite. And that's the most I can ask for, is you just put in 100% of the effort to the program that I'm going to give you, and just trust that it's going to do the results. And then those type of people are always the ones that are going to have the most progress too. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of they end up working the hardest, and they kind of get that validation after, so then we both kind of feel better after. You would think that the money would be a real motivator so that people would like stay on track and be... you would think that, but you'd be surprised.
I guess so. It's like, I guess psychologically sometimes paying the money sort of checks the box for some folks, and like you pay the money and show up, but you don't really necessarily... You don't feel like it's required that you like really, really push yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate, but
it does happen for sure. I mean, I do have my clients I have some clients, especially at my commercial gym that I train out of, they pay their money, they come in once a week, and that's the only time they touch the gym, and they think that's going to be enough. But, at least we're getting in one day, but we should for sure be getting in more.
Yeah.
But, one's always going to be better than nothing. So, we got to get you doing something at least.
Yeah. And age range, or does it matter?
You know, for the most part, it doesn't matter. I've had 80-year-old clients. I have one of my clients that she actually just, you know, she's going off doing her own thing now, but she was with me for maybe 6 to 8 months. Her name was Miss Susan. If she listens to this somehow, she's awesome. But yeah, she would come in twice a week, and you know, she'd get after it, and you know, it went from her barely being able to, you know, get on and off up a box to where she was squatting with, you know, 15-pound dumbbells. You know, just completely changed how she moved throughout the day. And you know, when you hear those things of a client being like, you know, I always had this problem when I get off the couch and it takes me forever to get warm and my knees hurt all the time. And after a few months where they're telling you like, hey, you know, like everything that I'm doing, nothing causes me pain, you know, everything feels great. You know, I'm carrying all my groceries by myself, you know, that's an awesome feeling. And so like when I hear that, you know, that always just kind of validates everything. So it's always the clients that, you know, get the most, where, you know, obviously I'm going to have a little bit more kind of bias towards those ones because they're obviously working a little harder, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, strength gives people agency, especially as you get older.
Yep.
You know, if you're strong enough to be able to do things yourself and you don't actually have to ask for help all the time.
Even that independence is huge as you age.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of someone who's getting old, I do occasionally ask people to do things for me that I don't want to do anymore. Usually involving ladders, having fallen off a couple in the past few years.
Don't mess with those.
No fun at all. Something you and I have talked about reasonably extensively offline is clients on GLP-1 agonists. What have you observed in with those kinds of clients?
So from the things that I've noticed, those GLP-1s, they're a great tool to add to our diet and training that are already in place, but they're not going to be like a magic thing that everyone is anticipating. You're not just going to take that shot and lose 50 pounds in 3 months and then going to be a completely different person. There's going to be some type of lifestyle changes that are going to have to happen in that. We're going to have to do something differently. So a lot of those people that, you know, I do have some clients that get on these GLP-1s and, you know, they're really reluctant to change the way they eat. And, you know, so one of the biggest problems is you're going to have that, you know, your gastric emptying is going to slow down. Your metabolism is going to run a little slower. So all that food is going to definitely make you a lot fuller for longer. And what a lot of people do is they'll have, you know, a tiny little protein bar for breakfast, and then for dinner they're having a salad, and then they had 500 calories for the day and they think they're good because they're, you know, not hungry.
Yeah.
But then the reality is, okay, well, now that we're drastically so under our calories, our weight loss is not just going to be fat, it's going to be muscle as well. So a lot of those people, they're, you know, not having the weight loss that they expect to have because they're just not making sure they're being fed properly.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue that I see. I mean, I've had clients lose 80 plus pounds with them, so they definitely work, but they do need to be used a little bit responsibly.
Yeah. I mean, I've been, this has sort of been a theme lately, but I find that a lot of people are, that was really weird.
Is that wind or something?
I have no idea. That was a little earthquakey thing. I don't know. No, the lights aren't moving, so it's not that. I don't know. I'm not. When I move, it doesn't bump the monitor. I don't know what happened. They're just being given these drugs. My analogy is like depressed people getting antidepressants, but without any emotional support or talk therapy or anything like that. That doesn't make sense to me. But it's kind of more common than not. And I think that's happening with the GLP-1s too, where they're just not getting the lifestyle change support. And you know that the worst thing isn't the idea that you might stay on the drug for the rest of your life, you know, whatever the drug is. The worst thing is that you have lost too much muscle, or your diet still sucks, and so
you're still taking this drug for no other reason.
Yeah, for no other reason, the fact that your diet sucks.
Yes.
Yeah, You're just taking it so that your diet can be terrible.
And I try not to be super cynical and get into my conspiracy theorist mind about how much of that is the pharmaceutical whatever, just pushing those drugs onto people. But every time I watch TV, I think I see about 5 different commercials for different GLP-1s and stuff.
Yeah.
So it is crazy. They do work, but they definitely need to have some responsibility to them too.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone is just looking for the
quick fix.
The thing.
Yep.
I actually, I saw this the other day. This is just in terms of like revolutionary drugs that UCLA has developed this molecule that reawakens hair follicles. So it's essentially a cure for baldness.
There we go.
It's like, wow. Like I don't know how long it's going to take to get like FDA approval for this, but in like 5 to 10 years when people are bald, it's going to be by choice.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
In the same way that, the GLP-1 and what's the other one? The other hormone that is in like agonists that they use in like Zepbound, and that's
the ghrelin.
Yeah, GIP.
Yeah, GIP.
Yeah.
And then some of them will. I think it's the retatrutide does the GIP, the ghrelin, and the GLP-1 or something. So yeah, it does like a triple agonist on it.
That I know where I was going. Okay, so as these drugs improve, that's where I was. As these drugs improve, then maybe just being fat will be a decision as well. I mean,
they have those myostatin drugs that they're starting to run through some phases now.
Yeah.
That seem pretty promising in animal studies, but you never know with humans. But if you can get a myostatin inhibitor that just allows you to build muscle without doing anything, and then you have some advanced GLP-1 that just melts the fat off you in the future, there's probably going to be a drug that just in 10 years where you just put on muscle and burn fat while sitting on the couch.
You wonder about the physiological effects of that, because people who take steroids, sometimes you find that their muscle growth way outstrips their ability of their tendons and ligaments to keep up, and you start popping tendons and having surgeries and reattaching things and one thing or another. I wonder if that'll be the case.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure there'll be some type of new problem that we'll see with all the stuff happening.
There's always kind of a zero-sum game, where you
give
can
and take for something.
Yeah,
you're not just gonna get a free ride to getting skinny and jacked with nothing.
No, which sucks, because that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
I am always amazed by, the people who still use the morphology, the 3 classifications, the metamorph and the
endomorph,
ectomorph, all that stuff, because it's really it describes something, but it doesn't mean anything at the same time. But there are people who just don't put on weight, either muscle weight or fat, at the same pace as everyone else,
for sure,
and that's frustrating. But those people are often frustrated because they're not putting on muscle.
Yeah, but then at the same time, from from what I've seen of doing this for a long time, there's so many of these skinny guys that say they can't get bigger. They're really reluctant to really try to push the food.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we can't get bigger if we're not going to eat. And I know that's super counterintuitive to what the internet says nowadays, because there's that main gaining stuff or whatever that is.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's basically guys just try to eat at a maintenance level of calories and try to make gains that way, so they're not putting on fat. But
so like a kind of like, I don't know, like a reverse kind of thing?
Yeah, maybe just like a super tiny deficit where they're not going crazy. But at that point, what are you going to do? Like, do that for 2 years to see any type of progress? What are we really doing here?
Yeah. In terms of progress, like, how do you deal with I'm sure it happens for strength, but I know it happens for weight loss where people or just get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not progressing at the speed that they want to, or just don't seem to be progressing at all. Like, what do you say? What's your counsel?
So there could be many different things. For some people, it could be as simple as maybe we just get in some more steps. So for a lot of people, if they are kind of exercising more, that getting in that step count might be the last thing that they're going to do. So their first step may be just getting into the gym 3 times a week. So, if they're getting into the gym 3 times a week, we're doing something at least, but we're still not burning those kind of calories throughout the day and the week that we need to. So for some people, just kind of getting in those extra steps throughout the day might be able to do a little something. For some people, it could be, stress related. What's, your sleep looking like, further stuff like that. There's a lot of different nuances that can come into, stalling with your weight loss and progress, but a lot of it is going to be kind of person to person, individual on what kind of stuff they have going on in their lives and stuff.
Yeah. Not making progress is a big reason why people quit doing things. Yeah. You just don't have that feedback loop.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have a trainer or a coach or someone who can give you that feedback and being like, okay, well, if this isn't working, now it's time to pivot. So you got to always kind of know what the next move's going to be, and if you don't have that knowledge yourself, you're going to just keep hitting those plateaus.
Yeah, and obviously it isn't always about scale weight.
For sure.
And most people are not checking in on their lean mass versus body fat on a super regular basis. Yeah. And
or at all.
Or at all. And the scales that use impedance are just not very accurate. Yes. And they can be.
Yeah, you can get like a 10 to 15% variance on some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know the last time I saw anybody have calipers used on them.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And I still have a set from the like late 90s at home somewhere. They were kind of cool because they would snap when they got to place. Yeah. Well, that sort of, that made sense to me, but it's hard to do on yourself.
For sure. It's a pain in the ass to do on other people. They don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, sure. So it's like, underwater weighing did that a few times back in the day.
But now they got the DEXA.
I've done DEXA, yeah. And DEXA is like, the underwater stuff is not painless. The DEXA is painless.
Yeah. The underwater is probably going to give you a little bit more accurate read on it, but that's what I'm saying. You don't have to. DEXA, you just lay on the table. Super easy.
And it tells you like where you're
it gives you a full X-ray and all that stuff.
Yeah, where your fat is stored and whatever. I was talking to a friend last night who was saying that his gym did a big like 90-day fat loss challenge or whatever.
Yeah, it's happening a lot right now over the summer.
He's skinny guy in the first place, but he dropped a fair amount of weight. I don't know how many pounds it was, but then he went in and got a DEXA, and it's like, nearly all of my fat now is visceral.
Yeah.
It's like I'm over 50, and
it's full of visceral fat.
Just full of visceral fat, and getting rid of that is just super challenging.
Yes.
They talk about like the stubborn fat loss protocols around it's like HIIT and this, that, and the other thing, to try to get rid of that stuff. And I don't know. That's really my demon and has been for a long time. And I don't know what, because I'm, in the process of losing weight currently. I just don't know like where I'm going to land and how bad that's going to be. I will go back and get another DEXA and see where that stands. But I had one a few months ago, and I hadn't had one for like 7 or 8 years. And what had changed during the time was 13 extra pounds of fat. My lean muscle mass was exactly the same.
Oh, there you go.
But it was all just fat. It's like, well, that's fun.
Hey, at least you didn't lose any muscle. That's good.
Yeah. Probably. Well, I was also heavier. I was, about 13 pounds heavier. Yeah. So I just gained fat, apparently. That's, unfortunate.
It happens.
Unfortunate fact of life. Yeah. And Have you had clients like leave because of like circumstance, whatever, work or life or whatever?
For sure, yeah. That's usually people's first thing that, personal training, it is going to be a little bit of a pricey investment. Yeah. So a lot of people, their initial, kind of qualms about everything is that kind of payment. But, I try to be pretty affordable with people and work with people where I can. But, if we're going to say we're going to spend, $300 a month on personal training, if you go out to the bar, 3 weekends a month, you're easily going to spend $300 if you're going out with a girl or something else, that's only a few drinks. That's, a short night, you're going to spend $100.
Yeah.
Especially if you got to pay $20 to get in somewhere. I mean, so I try to always tell people that if this is something that we really want to do and if this is a really important goal to us, that there's going to have to be some sacrifices that we're going to make somewhere else. And so if we can make those sacrifices towards something that's only going to be putting us into a, worse direction, like going out spending $12 a meal on fast food 3 times a week, or, going out to the bars on the weekends, cutting out those things right there and just kind of reallocating some of those funds to something that's going to, improve your quality of life is kind of the biggest kind of how I try to let people see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then have you had circumstances where people have sort of left, like fallen off the wagon and then come back?
Yeah. For the most part, I try to keep people with some type of guidance. So I always tell my clients that the more times that we're in together, touching bases, getting face to face, like the overall better progress we're going to make. And then as we progress, we don't need to be, doing that face to face as much. The more they learn in the gym, the more comfortable they are doing stuff on themselves. But it's still good that, we touch base, at least once a week to check in and be like, how's it going? Is there anything we need to change? How's your week been? Like, are there any things that's happening differently? And so that way you always have that feedback to where, they can always keep something to where they're still moving in the right direction at least. I try not to have someone completely go away and then try to come back, because then at that point they've probably regressed a little bit. Yeah.
It's amazing how fast, like if you've been committed in the past, how fast things will come back. But it sucks because you always have to end up starting at like ground zero again. Yeah,
but muscle memory is a real thing, though.
Muscle memory is a real thing. Yeah. It's just, it takes a little bit of consistency to kick back in.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a couple of just food related questions, to wrap things up. One of everybody's biggest challenges is just getting enough protein. It's people who have no idea how much protein that they need. And most people are just not getting enough, number one. And number two, when people who actually trying to get it is challenging.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the bigger challenges. What do you do? What's your
So what I always want to do for most people is I initially want everyone just to start off with just tracking what you eat normally for a couple days. So when people initially do that, you can probably see right off the bat that their protein's going to be a little bit lower. So one of the first things that I try to do for clients is I don't try to drastically change calories or anything. I just want them to focus on eating more lean proteins throughout the day. So for like a breakfast, I try to have them focus on, either like a Greek yogurt, whey protein, some eggs, something like that, where they're going to be getting a good hit of protein in. And then for lunch or dinner, we're going to be doing like a beef, turkey, chicken, something where it's a lean protein like that. And then I try to have them do that at least 3 or 4 times a day. And then throughout the day in between, if they're in their car driving to and from the gym or something, that's when we can have a protein shake or a protein bar to get an extra, 20 to 40 grams in there. But a lot of it is just kind of trying to get that focus of making your meals around a protein source. Instead of just being like, I'm having spaghetti today, I'm going to have, a piece of chicken with my pasta, and try to rearrange the meals a little bit to where they're just focusing on getting more protein throughout the day.
Yeah.
But for me, one of my biggest tricks is I just, every time I eat, I'm going to be getting protein in. So I eat 5 to 6 times a day. every time I eat, I want to be getting at least 40 grams of protein. So that's kind of just how I make it easy. And then, if I need a shake or two to kind of balance some stuff out, that's where those come into play.
That used to be the eating 5-6 times a day was it had like a different rationale under it. It was like a thermic effect of food and like, or keeping metabolism, all that stuff. And I think that the practical reality of it is that if you are trying to hit certain macro goals, it's difficult to do that in 3 meals a day.
Yes. The feeding window is important. So if you're not kind of spacing out all that protein throughout the day, and it's 5 o'clock and you have 150 grams of protein left, it's going to be really hard to condense all that down into one meal.
Yeah.
So if you can spread all those out throughout the day, it's going to be a lot more manageable. And then when you're in a caloric deficit, if you're eating 5 to 6 times a day, you're going to be eating really small meals, but you're going to constantly be eating every 3 to 4 hours, and you're way less likely to be hungry at that point.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And the other one is a discussion that we've had before, and I know you've had it on your social media too, that it's always been a like chicken, broccoli, rice scenario for the bodybuilding diet, but rice has its issues, and there is a very easy substitute.
Yep.
And that's potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes are great. So one of the first things I do for a lot of my clients when we're in a deficit, I try to get them eating, more volume. So if we can do more things like sweet potatoes and potatoes, like a squash even, like a butternut squash, stuff like that, where you're going to be getting in a very large volume, but, a very small amount of carbs. 50 carbs in rice versus potatoes is quite a substantial difference. So if you're noticing that you're hungry throughout the day and you're eating a lot of chicken, rice, that kind of stuff, switching some of those out for a potato, it's not only going to be more micronutrient dense, but it's going to give you a lot more volume to fill your stomach.
Yeah, the thing about rice, they always say, they talk about Chinese food, you eat it and you're hungry again an hour later. Part of that's you're eating a bunch of rice, and it's just like super digestible.
Yeah, rice is awesome because it is a great carb source, and we do metabolize it really well, but that's kind of the other issue with it. It's going to just go in and you're going to digest it immediately and be hungry in a couple minutes.
Yeah, no, that part sucks. Well, obviously you're around here, so you'll be back on the show, but I appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, of course.
Where can people find you, Riley?
Instagram, just Riley_Corbett. And yeah. Or if you want to email me for some training, you can reach out to Riley@3sb.co.
Cool. I am at the Jim McDonald on social media. This show is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. 50% facts is the Spreaker Prime podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network. And I will talk to you next week.